How can the bees find their way back to their hive from such a long distance? Bees have an extraordinary navigational ability, which allows them to find their way back to the hive from great distances. They use several methods of navigation, including using their eyes to see objects around them, as well as using their smell to identify odors left by other bees that have gone to and from the hive. Bees also use sunlight and the Earth's magnetic field to determine the direction and distance to the hive. In some cases, bees may also use certain environmental features, such as patterns of light and shadow, to help them find their way home. All of these methods combine to help bees find their way home accurately and efficiently. Why do bees collect honey? Bees collect honey as their main food source. Honey contains sugar, water, vitamins and other essential nutrients needed by bees as a source of energy to fly and carry out important tasks in the hive such as raising larvae and maintaining the cleanliness of the hive. Bees collect nectar from flowers and consume it, then pour it into the honey cells in the hive. After that, the bees process the nectar using special enzymes to turn it into honey. This process is time-consuming and requires a lot of hard work from bees, so honey is considered a valuable food for bees. What will happen if all types of bees become extinct? If all types of bees become extinct, it could have a huge impact on ecosystems and human survival. Bees are important pollinators for many plants, including food crops that meet human needs such as fruits, vegetables and nuts. This plant will not be able to bear fruit without pollination by bees or other insects. In addition, bees also play an important role in the food chain, providing food for birds and other animals that feed on the nectar and pollen of flowers. Loss of bees can also affect soil quality, as bees help accelerate plant decomposition and improve soil quality through pollination. In the long term, the extinction of bees could also affect the global economy, as many food crops and other products depend on bee pollination. Therefore, the existence of bees is very important to maintain the balance of the ecosystem and human survival. How can bees tell the difference between flowers that contain nectar and those that don't? Bees have an excellent sense of smell and can detect the smell of nectar from a great distance. They can also see patterns and colors on flowers that give clues to the possible presence of nectar. In addition, bees feel the vibrations of flowers when they land on them, which can provide additional clues as to the presence of nectar. After finding a flower that contains nectar, bees will usually mark the flower with pheromones so that other bees from their hive can find it easily. What do bees do during winter when the flowers don't bloom? During winter when the flowers are not in bloom, the bees spend their time in the hive. They form tight groups and take turns in the middle of the group to keep their body temperature warm. Bees also consume the honey reserves they collect during the summer and autumn as a source of energy during the winter. Some types of bees also maintain the hive and clean it during the winter. During very cold winters, bees can die of starvation or from extreme cold if their food reserves are depleted or insufficient. How do bees produce the wax used for their hives? Bees produce wax from wax glands located under their abdomens. When the collected honey has been brought to the hive, the wax-producing bees will feed on the honey and secrete tiny warts from their abdomens, known as wax scales. These wax scales contain wax glands that produce wax in the form of thin plates. The wax-producing bees then chew up the wax using their mouths and shape it into hexagonal cells known as nests. Once the wax has been formed, the honey-producing bees will use the hive to store honey and eggs, as well as to produce the next crop. How can bees communicate with each other to find newly blooming flowers? Bees have a very complex communication system known as the bee dance. When the bees find a new source of nectar, they return to the hive and tell the other bees in the hive about the location of the food source by dancing. There are two distinct types of bee dance: the round dance and the arch dance. Round dances indicate a food source is in close proximity to the nest, while arch dances indicate a food source farther away from the nest. In addition to the bees' dance, bees also emit scent pheromones to inform other bees of the location of a new food source. Through this complex communication system, bees can work together and find new food sources. Can bees distinguish colors? Yes, bees can distinguish colors. They have eyes made up of thousands of simple lenses called ommatidia, and each ommatidium has sensory cells capable of detecting color and light. However, bees see color differently from humans. They see a wider spectrum of colors and can see ultraviolet light, which is invisible to the human eye. Therefore, flowers that look the same to humans may look different to bees, and bees can use color to identify flowers that contain nectar or pollen. What happens when the queen bee dies? When the queen bee dies, the bee colony will look for or produce a new queen to replace it. Usually, worker bees select the eggs laid by the queen just before her death and feed the larvae with a special, royal jelly, which aids in their growth and development into queens. This process is known as queen rearing, and it can take around 16 days for the new queen to fully mature and ready to take on a leadership role in the bee colony. During this transition, bee colonies may experience a bit of instability, but in general they do well with a new queen. Thus our discussion of bees. Hopefully the information that has been submitted can be useful and add to your insight about the life of bees. Let's protect the existence of bees as important creatures in the ecosystem and as producers of delicious and beneficial honey for humans. Thank you for watching this video.